very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Radio 1 is here, based in the central building, the heart of our city, Kampala, but we're also broadcasting live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. You can also find us on the different radio listening apps, which you can obtain from the App Store of your smartphone. Download, look for Radio 1 FM 90, and as long as you have an internet connection, you'd be able to listen to us loud and clear. If you have a DSTV connection, that's on your TV set, look for audio channel 897. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host. Today I have a panel of 4 people, and our discussion will be focusing on the legal frameworks impacting on freedom of expression and access to information in Uganda. Now, we know access to information is a very critical tool as far as development and enjoying other rights is concerned. We also know in order for you to impart the information that you've accessed or the different form of things you're doing, you need to have that freedom to express yourself. Unfortunately, there are laws in this country that continue somehow to hinder but also facilitate the access to information, but also the freedom of expression. So we will be doing a quick analysis to see where are we as a country as far as freedom of expression and access to information is concerned, and how this is impacting on the works of different people, including women in civil society. Like I said, I have a panel of 4. I'm going to allow them to introduce. One of them is from the Uganda Police, and I'll begin with him.
Thank you very much, listeners. Good evening. I am SP Francis Ogweng. I am now the acting Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge CCTV operations, but a child and family officer for a very long time.
So when CCTVs are not doing their work, we should call you?
Call me, anyone, or if you want to install cameras in your homes, in your projects, in your businesses, kindly call us.
So the police is also doing that work of installing in private homes?
We will give you advice on in terms of security, what cameras you need, because we do fast security assessment. You don't just need to install cameras before assessing the security needs that you have.
All right.
Most people just install for floors. Yeah, so for us, we do a good job.
We'll talk in detail about those things, because those CCTVs are part of the discussion we are going to have today, because some people actually think you're spying on them. The gentleman next to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the listeners. My name is Jordan Tumasije. I am a lawyer, and I also am a team leader at a Ngumokio mentorship program for men. Very happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Sister?
Good evening, our dear listeners. My name is Esther Oluka. I'm a communications advisor and consultant. Before transitioning into the consultancy world, I was working with the Daily Monitor.
Once a journalist, always a journalist. Next to me.
Good evening, listeners. My name is Yuwera Posha. I am a lawyer by profession, a co-founder of Because of Her Uganda, which is a women's rights organization. I am also a gender integration expert in the terms of commercial practice. I'm very happy to be here with you all to have this amazing discussion.
All right. And I'll begin with you, Potia. Maybe you give us a quick analysis of why we're here. Why are we even discussing this issue of freedom of expression and access to information in Uganda?
Well, we're here to discuss a very important topic. When we talk about access to information and freedom of expression, this is something that is global at the moment. The term expression has changed over the years, and because of the digital expansion, what we've been able to express has expanded as well. So this is very pertinent. What we're allowed to speak, how we're able to present has now changed, has grown and transformed so much. And I think it's important that Uganda has a good look at what our freedom of expression looks like now and how it has transformed over the years. We need to question in our minds from 2001 to 2025, what has been our goals? Have we gone down? Have we accelerated? And even with the access to information now, are you sure that you're able to walk into any institution and ask for your data? Do you know how your data is being dealt with? Do you know how your data is being destroyed in the first place? Because do most people in Uganda know what are the limits of their rights for these particular two laws, is what we're able to come here to discuss and dissect, and hear the views also of our listeners to know what they think of this as we come to educate each other.
All right. As we discuss this point from your perspective, are there any particular concerns, any particular issues you have as far as freedom of expression and access to information is concerned?
Of course, there are several concerns.
All right.
I'll give from the perspective of the women's rights space. We have a very small space within which to conduct our work when it comes to expression. We are essentially the warriors in a very bad space. No one wants to talk about the difficult conversations that come with women. What beat land, backing, health, no one wants to have these discussions. And when we try to express ourselves, it becomes very, very hard. You always have to put a blanket over the statements that you have, or pass it several times through several checks for it to even come out. Or even to merely organize, because organizing is a huge part of expression. I can ask you, when is the last time you saw a march for women, for a women's cause? So now, because our expression is somewhat, limited to the degree it is, it's reducing the amount of impact that we can have with our work, the amount of visibility that we can bring to a lot of it because of the constraints that are there. And even with the access to information, there's pertinent information that we need from our institutions to basically track progress. I can give you in the example of COVID, I found here will speak to police's cooperative nature to produce first information concerning GBV. So it's been quite tasking, and we are hoping for more.
All right. Let's hear from you, Esther, as a communications expert. Also, once a journalist, having dealt with the issues of freedom of expression, but also in your time looking for information to be able to execute your work.
Okay. Thank you. The issue of freedom of expression, okay. On a general scale, it's a fundamental right. Freedom of expression is a fundamental right, but also with media, there is also media freedom of media expression. The issue of freedom of expression, I'll target in the journalism context. In the recent years, it's been increasingly difficult for the media, different sectors in the media, whether it's traditional media or the new media, to express themselves. Media has a duty. It's the watchdog in society. They put different government officials to check and all that, but increasingly that right, to play a role in society is increasingly becoming difficult because of different issues. I mean, the government generally is gagging the media. It's no longer an independent media anymore. These days, before you send out a story or disseminate information, there is an upper hand behind. You're supposed to dance to the tune of the government. Minus that, there are also consequences to it. So the current media does not operate as freely as it does. It's increasingly becoming very difficult. And a very good example I can give was what happened in the Kawempe by-election, where journalists were now the targets. They set aside politicians, but now the journalists were the target. It was a way of telling you that you need to control. It was a way of gagging them from covering the election. So I would say that as the years go by, it's increasingly becoming actually difficult for the media. Yes.
All right. We'll be coming back to you as we look at this, two issues: freedom of expression and access to information. And you are the lawyer here. Where does the problem lie? Is it with the legal framework? Are there any particular laws that you think need to be addressed? What could be the issue from your perspective?
Thank you. I think we have a robust legal framework that actually deals with these two issues. The lawyers know that the frameworks cannot just be looked at from the constraints of what we have domestically. We have obligations at the regional level. We have obligations even at the international level. And all of these things, we have instruments that, guarantee these core freedoms. So the problem is never really, about the law. The laws are there, they are in place. Even from our very own constitution, these safeguards are provided there, and if you want to believe what is written on paper, these freedoms actually exist on paper. Kwa ground, however, it is different, and I think this is where the discussion should actually focus, not in terms of whether the legal frameworks are actually sufficient, because they actually exist, but in terms of whether we are actually implementing these frameworks. I will give you an example. I am a practitioner in the oil and gas space. And whereas the Constitution and the Access to Information Act guarantees that I should be given information relating to the sector, that sector remains one of the most opaque sectors in this country, despite calls by activists, by practitioners, for the sector to actually be opened up.
What kind of information are you not accessing?
So, for instance, let me give you an example. Within the sector...
The reason I'm asking you this, because I've seen the key players in the sector, from time to time, they pass out information, and we know there is even an oil and gas update that is always given by the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. So what kind of information?
And when you look at this information, it's cute. So, for instance, when they say that the sector is employing maybe 30,000 Ugandans, it is very cute until you ask them to give you a bigger breakdown of where those Ugandans are actually working. You see, as a country, we have something called the National Content Regulations, and I don't want to go into, the technical specifics, which guarantee that Ugandans, for instance, need to be employed and need to benefit from the sector. But when you give us a blanket number and you don't show us where the majority of the Ugandans are actually being employed, you are actually doing the Ugandans a disservice. So the information that, and this is my quarrel in terms of access to information, the information that is provided is information that is inadequate. It is information that is meant to excite. But when you ask for bigger breakdowns, there is actually a problem there. So the frameworks are there, they are sufficient. We just have, whether you can blame it on impunity, whether you can blame it down on the deliberate attempts by the state to make sure that we do not have access to some of this information, or even the ability to be able to express. Like Portia, for instance, said that now the spaces have, the last time, when was the last time you saw a women's march? But so the space has also now shifted. We can now no longer organize physically, and now the organizing can maybe be seen in maybe digital spaces.
All right. Let's hear from Afande Ongweng. Ongweng, your quick take as a duty bearer, as people who implement the law, as people who are sometimes perceived to be, tough on freedom of expression and access to information issues. What's your quick analysis?
Thank you very much. Again, also my colleagues for all that you have said. I think Uganda is a very liberal country, in my view. And if you look at what is happening in terms of how we are passing information, in using so many medias, be print, electronic, social medias. I'm always on X. People are discussing whatever they want to discuss. Radio 1 has almost every month to express our views, and any view, by the way. People are on the other radios, people on TVs, people, everywhere. People are free. In my own view, you see, you just go on your phone. There are so many media outlets these days. I don't even know where how many they are. Maybe they are in thousands, only in Uganda, giving out information to whoever cares to read or to listen to. People on TikTok, people, so many. So in my view, Uganda is doing fairly well, in my view, in terms of expression. In any language, whether in the church, whether on the streets, pastors are everywhere. So in my view, that is a quick analysis. Of course, also I look at other countries, how they are doing, and if I compare it, and those countries are not far away. They are also in Africa here. You see the regulations, the restrictions are so much not to the extent that we do here. So I think for us, we are okay. Police, we do media briefing every Monday, and every journalist, every media house is free to come and pick whatever. I think also media center is also there for the public. I have ever been there to express. People say whatever they want. So yeah, that in my view, that is a quick take.
All right. When you hear what your colleague there actually suggested, that all right, that's the easier information that people can receive. But there is some places where it's a no-go. Much as the law allows us to access this information, they'll tell you, you can't get this, you can't do this. Sometimes we know people who actually cover police who will come and tell you, the police has declined to comment on that matter, therefore it's becoming a problem for us to actually publish it. You sort of, put the media in a situation where they will even do self-censorship.
Yeah, the good thing, we are talking to lawyers, people who know the law more than I do. There are some things, for example, a matter which is before court. You are supposed not to say everything because the matter is still before court. There are also some really critical information in terms of security. Our troops are outside, they are doing things. So there are some information which should be for some people, not for everyone. Even at home, there are some information for maybe the two people, the mother, the father, not for everyone. So again, I want to say, information, maybe someone should define for us information, what it is, and also expression, what it should be. But for me, if I look at the entire members of the public, how they're expressing themselves, I think, in my view, they're getting what they are supposed to get. There could be few issues here and there. I don't run away from that. That we are all stakeholders to see that we fix that. Both you and all these my colleagues are stakeholders, and I think again, we are always here to fix some of those, to answer some of those questions. Sometimes it's lack of awareness, and all of them have alluded to this, lack of awareness. People don't even know their rights when it comes to expressing themselves. People put whatever they want to put on Facebook, on TikTok, on social media, which will again begin to haunt them sometime in the future. So lack of awareness, to me, that is a critical thing that we all need to look at it together.
Right, before I leave you to go to your other colleagues, on Saturday we'll be commemorating World Press Freedom Day, and I know somewhere a report is going to come out and they will say police is the number one perpetrator. And she actually talked about the situation we had just here recently in the by-election in Kawempe, and there are elections coming next year. Every person in the media industry is on the tenterhooks, worried about what is likely to come. Why does the police beat the journalist, the messenger?
I think you've shot the messenger.
Okay, again, like I said, if a matter is being investigated, it is not very good to discuss it. I think that issue is being investigated.
Esther, I think you're well versed with that comment.
That matter is being investigated. It is being discussed. So a report is going to come out. So I think it is not right now to comment so much on that.
When Afade Ongweng Francis of the CCTV was contacted for comment, he said the matter is under investigation. But let's hear from Ms. Potia. Potia, specifically on women-led organizations, how does lack of access to information and freedom of expression impact on your work?
First of all, it impacts our design on how we do our work. One of the things that you need to show within your work is impact, and the numbers alone. When you're unable to report, you cannot show the scale at which things are happening. Or I return to the case of COVID, it was quite a struggle to get any kind of information about the scale of which how GBV sparked. And because of that, we don't have the most accurate reports on what happened. We know it increased, but as a matter of data, and data is central to, data is almost like money at this point. It is money. Imagine trying to work in a space where you cannot exactly prove by data point what exactly happened. And then also when it comes to freedom of expression for women's rights, so of course women's rights are continuously involved. What we were speaking on in 1980 is not what we are speaking on today. How do we reflect the new changes within the laws that we want to push if we are going to have the limitations that are there. And then also with the access to information and certain information, especially within the health arena, are key. No one likes to touch on the button of maternal care and what is going on. We always want to say that maternal care has reached peak levels in Uganda. But if we are to extract that amount, we can have a clear picture. So it harms the effectiveness of our interventions when we do not have enough data, and it also harms the effectiveness of our information when we are unable to essentially share this data with people and make sure that they get involved in the work that we do. Because CSOs, women CSOs, we assist in this society. We are custodians of so many other people's lives. So when we are unable to make our work publicly aware, how else are we going to continue to get the citizens to get involved? How are we going to get young women and men to galvanize towards women's rights, which is still needed in this country?
All right. And now, Esther, we have looked at the importance of access to information, but also freedom of expression. And we do realize that, of course, there are hindrances. But in your view, how do you think that situation can be addressed? How do we improve the situation?
I think journalists or media houses overall, I think they need to continue standing their foot. Just taking you back to when I was in the newsroom, there were many instances whereby, for example, you have a story and you want it published, but okay, for example, you would maybe call someone from government for a comment, and then of course there are bureaucracies involved, they don't want to comment, and then in some instances they would actually threaten you and tell you, oh, if you publish that story, you guys will see, we shall sue you and all that. But I realized that the editors who would make the final decision, they would stand their ground. They would say, come on, Mbaya, let's do this story. If they come for us and we have our facts, we shall not be intimidated. We are, our responsibility is to put these guys in check. So I think overall it stems to media houses, standing
their ground.
But I also think journalists have a duty, for example, using their different social media platforms to actually continue addressing some of the grievances that they face in the media. If for example, you feel that you're being gagged, I think it's everyone's responsibility as a journalist to go and, sound out. By sounding out many times, I've also realized that also different authorities, whether it is government or police, they kind of take a step back and they kind of let you do your work. So it goes back to the journalists and the media houses as a whole.
All right.
Stand their feet.
All right. Let's hear from you. And how do you think we can improve this situation, Jordan?
I think, first of all, it's in the collective call for the respect of rule of law, because I think that's where everything must stem from. If there is a court decision, in the decision of, Andrew Mwenda, Charles Onyango versus the Attorney General, which is very clear on what the parameters of freedom of expression are and what amounts to freedom of expression, we should not then have a revision much later through, acts of parliament that are meant to subvert that. If the Supreme Court passes a decision and we do not fight for the implementation of that decision, what we are essentially saying is that we are saying goodbye to all these other rights. Because if we, as a country, are a country that respects the rule of law, then it should be easy for a citizen to come and ask for information if there is nothing to hide, and if the citizen goes through because when we're talking about, for instance, freedom of information, people tend to think that it's blanket. People understand that there could be a cost that is associated to that. If a person is willing to pay the cost, if a person is willing to, and they are Ugandan, why aren't you giving them the information unless there's actually something to hide?
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a break. Our topic of discussion, legal frameworks impacting on freedom of expression and access to information in Uganda. I have a panel of 4. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. When we return, I'll give an opportunity to Afande Ongwen Charles Francis to share his views on how we can better the situation now. But we also have so many other things to talk about, including having responses to the comments that you send us during the course of this discussion. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90 will continue after this break. All right, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Live on Radio 1 FM 90. Our topic of discussion today, we are looking at legal frameworks and those policies that are impacting on freedom of expression and access to information in Uganda. My guest, Mr. Ogwen Francis, Assistant Commissioner of Police, CCTV Operations, Ms. Esther Oluka, Communications Advisor and Consultant, Mr. Jordan Tumwesije, Team Leader, Ngomukeo Mentorship Program, is also a lawyer, and Ms. Owera Potia, she's a co-founder because of her Uganda. Now, Afande, before we went for break, I asked almost everyone here on this table to give us a best way forward, how we can address some of these situations that we find ourselves in. Let me give you an opportunity to do so.
Thank you very much. I think what Women of Uganda Network is doing is what we should do and other NGOs should do. They are mobilizing us, they are asking us questions, they're bringing us on radio to talk, to create awareness. And I think that is what we should all do. Because first, if you are dealing with people who are not aware about even their rights, people who don't even know what to share and what not to share, then there will be a problem. There will be a big problem. So awareness creation, in my view, is the first thing for us to do.
Okay.
If you look at other countries, how they do their things, people are informed. They know their rights. They even avoid some of these small crimes that we commit here everywhere. So that to me is what we should do, and of course, working together, collaborations. I think Women of Uganda Network again is doing this a lot, working with the police, working with other entities, negotiations, discussions, and seeing that we move together on the same path. So awareness raising is key.
That's your key proposal.
Oh yes,
awareness.
Everywhere, villages, markets, even among the elites, we should still give awareness. People should know.
I hope this awareness should also be cascaded to the armed forces, including the police, not so?
Oh yes, in our training schools, we talk about this. Who should speak to the media? And I think that is where most complaints are coming. If you call me, I am not the PRO for the police, I will not speak. Public service standing order is clear that there is one person who speaks on behalf of the institution. So everyone should know that if I need this kind of information, then the one who speaks, maybe for government, for police, is so and so. I have to go to them, maybe make an appointment with them, and they will get this information. And by the way...
That's the bureaucracy Esther was talking about.
And by the way...
You are on scene, you're a senior officer, you are the one taking the lead, but you're knocking me around and telling me, call the PRO. Yet I'm at the scene with you.
The DPCs can speak. Some directors can speak. But the one who officially should speak is the PRO. But remember also, police has a website where most of this information is there. You can get them.
Which can be posted the following day.
Like my sister said, during COVID, it was very difficult to get information. Remember COVID, how it came. It shocked everybody, and even movement was a problem. We started a GBV call center that very time. But remember, you cannot give that is raw information. You can't publish. That information has to be processed first and given out in an official way. So even if I am the one in charge of that center, I can't give you the data. I can't. Even here at Radio 1, I don't think if I came to you for anything, you will give it to me. No, you may say, go to the manager. That is the procedure of doing things. Maybe that is what some people call bureaucracy, but yet that is just the procedure
of accessing information. Right, let's go to you, Jordan. Jordan, very quickly. As we speak, some people will tell you that, well, the actions taken, like he has told you, there are policies, house policies, but there are also laws that specifically are designed to deal with some of these issues. But we also told you the situation we are in could be because of certain laws that are in place. Have you made an analysis on what you think are those critical laws that are weighing down on freedom of expression and access to information in Uganda?
Yes, indeed. When you look at laws like the Computer Misuse Act, for instance, it's an act that was meant to, and that's why I disagree with people who want to police people into boxes of how to express themselves, to say that, you have to express yourself in a particular way. So with the rise of social media sites like TikTok, there has also risen a rise in different forms of expression. Now, what we're currently seeing is discrepancies in prosecution. So, for instance, it seems there are people who are more important and they are more likely to be offended. So, for instance, for me, Jordan, if I am insulted on social media, I'm expected to suck it up and move on. But, today, there was a 25-year-old, I think, who appeared in court. I think I've forgotten his name, because he insulted the Kabaka of Uganda. So there's selective prosecution, even in that regard. So even
why are you saying selective prosecution?
Yes,
there's an argument. I don't know how to translate it in English, but in Uganda they say whoever has been found in the hole is the thief.
I think I can speak to that. I think we're all familiar with the Lichabook Animal Farm. And I think that's what I can use as an analogy to speak to how our laws are implemented, specifically with freedom of expression and then access to information. Some little pigs are more equal than others. Especially when it comes to women, we see a lot of cyberbullying for women, politicians. Like you said, AI, 1 minute I'm talking on this radio show, another minute someone has undressed me and thrown me in their bed using an AI drive, So my ability to sue and the success of my case is now riding on the fact of how much influence I have. And I think I've been able to see it. And precedents will show that those who have been able to sue for cyberbullying, harassment, have strong political affiliations, have of some sort of social standing within our country, or have some sort of, outdoor connection that the ordinary citizen should not have. So it begs the question to what is the purpose of this law? Because laws are set by legislators, but written by legal practitioners. What was the intention? Is it to protect all citizens, to work for all citizens, or is it to be, hand-picked on how it can best be applied? And that's why we see these laws continuously be manipulated with, whoever has the best hand on the chessboard at that time.
All right. Conclude your point, Jordan.
Yeah, indeed. Like she rightly says, so there are people who are more important, under the law. So which is wrong, because ideally we should all be equal under the law. So when you see laws like, the Computer Misuse Act, they are laws that are weaponized. They are laws that, are coming in to actually, cripple that voice, that new space that is now emerging, because they've realized that now you can no longer organize and go to City Square. So the next place where they've got to gag you is, on the basis of what you say on your social media, which should be wrong, because again, that infringes on your freedom of expression.
Esther, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, he has actually spoken about, it's amended now, the Computer Misuse Act. I'll bring it back to journalism. Because of that act, actually, there is a bit of self-censorship among journalists now. Let me give an example. Investigative journalists, for example, need a lot of information. Sometimes they have to record. Sometimes they have to go to the extremes to get their stories. But now, if you have the amended Computer Misuse Act, which is targeting online critics, you can't just. It has become increasingly hard for journalists, to get information. Actually, it's becoming increasingly hard. And I remember when it was passed, many journalists made noise about it, that they're indirectly being targeted and being gagged, and they are not able to do their stories very well. So, yeah, these laws, in a way, they say that they are kind of protecting the masses or the public or even people, but in a way they're also affecting work.
All right. Let's hear from Afande. The issues of the laws. You are the implementers of the laws. Have you found issues with the laws, or you are happy with the way they are when it comes to access to information and freedom of expression?
Again, like I said at the beginning, I think Uganda is a very fair country. And for us, we find it easy. We don't find any problem implementing, because for us, of course, we are implementers of the law. And the lawyers here, they know. They also have a role to play. We normally implement to make sure we protect everyone. We protect people, we protect their properties, we protect their lives. That is basically our roles. And normally, we work with the community, work with the public. We get information, then we are supposed to go and investigate and take people to them, to the courts. What people don't know is that one case is handled by so many people. Sometimes it even starts with the community members. It comes to maybe the LCs. It comes to the police. It goes to now the legal practitioners there. That is where it ends. But a lot of time, if it fails, it is police. It is police. It is police. We did some awareness raising in Tororo, where a lot of defilement cases were failing, and people were pointing fingers on the police. But when we did investigation thorough, we found that it was the community members who would again go and negotiate and even fail to appear to testify, to just frustrate the court processes. So sometimes it is not just the police, it is a range of stakeholders who should work together in collaboration to make sure everything is done well. But I think in terms of implementation, for us, the police, we are doing our work. And we are doing it well.
All right. We expect comments to come in from the listeners, but let's continue with the discussion. Now, I wanted to look at actionable and gender-inclusive solutions for both women-led CSOs and the government, whereby we can enhance freedom of expression. What do we need to do? Do we need to amend laws? Afande talked about sensitization. What do we need to do now as a way forward, looking at the situation that we are in?
Okay. I'll give something that is contextual, and I think that would not be that hard to implement, because I wouldn't want to take us in wishful thinking, friends. Government needs to mandate gender desks within these government organizations. Have a gender officer who is ready to produce this amount of information. We don't need to pass through Commissioner so-and-so to Governor so-and-so to Secretary so-and-so. If gender is really a matter of seriousness to our government, they need to integrate this within these offices. The police needs to have a gender desk with the information, which brings out sex desegregated data. And for our listeners, that's data that is between male and female. It will show the different experiences within the data collected specifically. It needs to exist within our health systems. It needs to exist at all levels. The whole cohesiveness that the government has been able to put between, let's say, URA and, the passport place, Ministry of Finance, all the cohesion that they have done there to make sure information is quickly passed. It's the same way they need to treat gendered issues.
All right.
Yes.
All right. And coming to you, have you attempted at any point to access information and probably met hindrances? And what would you propose be done in order to address the challenges that you faced?
Thank you. Like I said, I've faced hindrances trying to access a lot of information in the oil and gas sector, specifically information to do with national content as provided, as given by the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. But I think for me what needs to be done, government needs to adapt, and in line with what she was also proposing, it's important that government also adapts human rights-based approach programming, because when you adopt that kind of programming, you cease to see rights as these threats that are threatening your own grip on power, but actually these things that can actually, you can walk hand in hand with when you are achieving development. So for instance, by showing that when we have greater transparency and accountability, for instance, in a particular sector, that it as a result of that accountability and transparency, that you're able to have greater yields within that sector would go a long way. So I think in line also with what Afande was saying, it's important for us to teach government officials to understand that human rights are not necessarily anti-government. They are not necessarily supposed to be looked at as antagonistic, but rather as tools that can actually be used to actually achieve development.
All right. Esther, any recommendations that you want to make in regard to, addressing the situation that we are in? How can we move forward?
The laws are already there. As one of my colleagues said earlier, these laws are there. Sometimes they're amended. There is nothing new even when they make these amendments. But I think for me, I want to speak for women because women face really very, should I say, in terms of cruelty on online spaces, women face the heat a lot. I think for women, I think there needs to, women need to know that it's their right. In terms of freedom of expression, it's their right. So I think there needs to be some bit of sensitization and advocacy for women that, it's actually your right to express yourself. Right? But also where you face instances of harassment, that is online harassment, whether it's also bullying and intimidation and all that, there are also avenues you can address them. So for me, I want to speak for the women still. Right?
All right.
So yeah, it's very important that they speak out. They shouldn't let the men take the online spaces. I mean, how will their voices be heard?
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let's focus a little bit on the online spaces and the challenges that keep emerging. Earlier on, you hinted on the issues of AI, but you also hinted on the challenges of cyberbullying. Are women safe? Young people safe? Is everybody safe when it comes to those online platforms? Or are we having situations where access to information and the right to express the expression is being hindered?
Yes. What I'll say is that young people are not as safe as they would seem, because technology and these online platforms, they move much faster than we can legislate to protect them. I'll give, Ugandans love seeing other people's nudity online and sensationalizing that and making it a topic. If you go to see if we have anyone cases on behalf of victims, it's quite hard. Yes, there's one on the angle of people not knowing their rights, but even those who know their rights are unable to get justice because there are so many loopholes within our legislation. It's very hard to sue someone for taking a photo of you, actually. You would imagine that it's so easy that in public, if you're not a public figure, someone can take a photo of you and you find yourself trending on TikTok. What is the legal avenue there? It could find yourself very, very hard for you to achieve justice. So one of the key points that I'd like to put out is that our laws have to move much faster. We don't need to wait for a much larger incidence from someone who's more influential to start legislating for us to catch up. So the law cannot protect you in the online platform. It cannot. If I steal your data and I manage to hack into your Stanbic account, Stanbic as a legal entity, it has already made you sign some sort of waiver to protect itself. Police in itself is not yet equipped to capture that kind of cyber crime. It will take quite a lot of time and resources, which they do not have. They are stretched thin. So where will your justice go in this question?
All right. Ms. Ongin, do you want to comment on the issues of social media? Earlier on, I saw you expressing concern about what people post and their responsibility. Do you still hold to that thought?
Oh, yes. The statement or the phrase I want to use and borrowing from so many people is that what we have now is the enemy within. The enemy within is like you're here with your children and they're all on social media. You don't know who they're talking to. Sometimes they're talking to people who are going to attack them, people who are targeting them. Someone locks themselves in their bedrooms, but they are speaking to the world. and that has cost a lot. People put the big wall fence, dogs inside, you can't move near, but not knowing that the enemy is within. And this enemy within, coupled with lack of awareness, it is even worse, like my sister talked about. I think Uganda, I don't know whether we are really very ready to embrace everything the way they come and also just move with the wave. I think there should be some kind of controls, some kind of, in my view, regulations, because otherwise then people are not writing their CVs on social media. You don't even go to someone and they will not know about you. They already know so much about you.
Yes.
And this is affecting so many people. People are losing jobs. People are failing to get jobs because of what they write on the social media pages. So it is a big problem. The enemy is within.
All right.
It's a good thing, of course, if we use it well. But if we don't use it well, it's an enemy.
All right.
To us.
We have some questions coming in and some comments. We have a comment coming in from Stephen, who talks about the need to amend the laws that are insensitive and hindering access to information and freedom of expression. Parliament should take the lead in this matter. That's a comment from Stephen there. We have a comment from Marion, who says women are always a subject of ridicule on online platforms. Some of them should take responsibility about what they post, but also it's their right to be there because social platforms have become a working environment. That's another comment. The last one here coming in from Emma, who actually says, in Uganda, information can be used as a weapon against you. I don't know what he actually implies. Very quickly, if you can respond to those issues around the table.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll start. And I'll start with the point of responsible posting. And for me, I find that very problematic because what amounts to responsible? That's very subjective. And that's why for everyone who thinks that they can gag young people, you have a hard time coming for you, because these people actually don't care for decorum. These people do not care about your perceived modes of proper expression. I think the issue should be in picking the message that they're trying to put across, rather than getting lost in the semantics of how that message is actually being put across. Yes, thank you.
All right. Very quickly, Esther.
One of the comments talked about Parliament, that Parliament should amend law, right? But on that specific comment, I would say that, or I would want to ask that how many laws has Parliament actually passed? The laws are already there in existence, something that I echoed on earlier, but I think with even those laws that are in existence, I think it all goes back to individuals. Yes, the laws are there, but also I think as individuals, there should be some bit of, okay, yes, each one has that fundamental right to express themselves online, but I think it also should be responsible. You should be very responsible the way you express yourself. But also when you face challenges, whether it's harassment, whether it's bullying, whether any kind of challenge, I think there also should be channels, as some of my colleagues said, to actually address those issues of cyber harassment. Because, I mean, you face harassment and then whom do you go to?
All right. Potia, your quick response.
My quick response will be to and the information being used against you. Now everyone is at a particular adult age. A lot of people are online, and so you choose how to conduct yourself online, and I think at a certain point you're able to bear the consequences. My issue is to children who do not yet know how to conduct themselves appropriately online. As a country, we need to legislate to protect them in some shape, way or form, because there are resources that can do that to aid children and safely guide them to participate in social media, because these people are now getting confused on how they should operate. And like Afande said, you lose out on opportunities, and your online persona is as much is as important as your physical persona. So a lot of sensitization is required there. And then speaking to women, we need positive and progressive legislation to support women on the online space. If we are not penalizing perpetrators the right way, then this is going to continue. These smaller media houses operating are going to continuously thrive off the backs of women's misfortune to trend, to, continuously, remix their misery for clicks. And we need to have positive legislation on that, tough legislation.
All right, I'm afraid time is not our best allies. We have to bring discussion to an end.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Tim, for actually coming out here to share with us your views on this very important topic, but also the listeners who tuned in and contributed to this discussion. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, same time, another topic will be on air. Your host, Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, handing over you to the news desk with the news in English. Josephine Ndagano is ready to give us that. But thereafter, do not forget to tune in for The Soul Train with BB.